As many local museums reopen, staff are welcoming guests with safety in mind. Today, the Cook Museum of Natural Science in Decatur opened its doors after being closed for nearly 4 months. Our Kanisha Dees learned about the safety measures they're taking during the pandemic.
The Cook Museum of Natural Science is set to open its doors to the public tomorrow, but there are a few changes in place because of the pandemic, as well as a new visitor.
We're just, after being closed and being in the type venue we're just so excited to have people back in here.
The Cook Museum of Natural Science to open after being closed since mid-March. Today, doors are open to museum members. Executive Director Scott MAYO says there have been changes.
Some of the exhibits we've altered. Our touch screens, many of the touch screens we put on a looped video to where you get the same experience, but instead of touching it and driving the experience, you're going to get to sit there and watch and go through the same information. Crowd favorites, our sand table, we've modified that. We've got gloves available. And you'll see sprinkled throughout the museum. We have hand sanitizer stations.
While some entertainment was removed, something new was added. Meet Kale, the 4 to 6-year-old critically endangered Kemp Ridley sea turtle arrived last month and came from the Virginia Aquarium and Marine Science Center. Live animal manager CASSIE ELIAS says Kale is the most endangered sea turtle species in the world.
It's really great to be able to have this animal that people already want to come back to the museum, but they get to come and see this new special animal that we're able to teach them about is pretty awesome.
And the Cook Museum of Natural Science will host Turtle Fun Day on Friday and Saturday. It'll be a time-ticketed event. Putting the Valley first, Kanisha Dees, WZDX News.